You ever wonder what your own human imagination is good for? And that it actually might contain the solution and insights to life's troubles, obstacles, and barriers? Well, that's what we're here to talk about on the I Paint Creatures IPC YouTube channel today. And I also have a special announcement that I'm so excited about. And after I give this announcement, if you will stick around, I'd like to share why I haven't put up any videos in a while and what I've been up to. It's actually connected to the announcement. And basically, we are here in the Be Well Forest. And that's the place the funky-eyed puppets begin their journey into the epic story experience of Matsu. So today, I have a special announcement, and I'm so excited to announce this. Basically, Symphony 2. I'm going to put on the screen right now the book of Symphony 1. It was very successful. It's been several years now since I put it out. Got it crowdsourced funding, and so I'm doing that campaign again to put out Symphony 2. And Symphony 2 just takes off where Symphony 1 left off. Symphony 1 informed you about the Atomicon and what happened to all the yokai creatures and the creation of the, the mysterious 96542 realm where they all fled because the Atomicon seemingly took away all the inspiration, creativity, self-knowledge, courage to express yourself on the planet. So a lot of the magical spirit guides, the yokai creatures, they had to go somewhere else. And the great 7 Kappa yokai carved a hole behind the sun and made a portal to go 96542. Well, Symphony 2 has brought me all the way full circle. And just like in a symphony, there's an overture at the beginning. That was Symphony 1. And Symphony 2 is the first movement. And so I'm gonna jam pack it again with sketches, stories, poems, paintings, illustrations, but most of all, there's gonna be some origin stories. And we're gonna get to experience all these things I've been talking about on the YouTube channel, basically going into Shigen's world when he was in the hospital. And he thought he was just pretending, and he was writing poems and creating illustrations and paintings of creatures when he was actually, it was the prelude. It was the first movement. He was talking about healing himself and finding his own Storystone within himself. So Symphony 2 is called The Sight from the Storystone, because it's what I've been learning in creating the poems and the illustrations and going deeper into the story and finding the mythic value of, the mission of Matsu, making art together, supporting universal unity. And one way I found that happens within me is finding my Storystone, the place where my imagination can wander out to places and find solutions and insights for, most of my troubles in life, obstacles, barriers, and see that hindrances are just stepping stones, and they're leading me and reshaping me and guiding me and directing me where my purpose lives and where I can live abundant and free. And that happens in the story of Matsu, and it happens with Shigen. And he starts discovering, because he starts drawing the story stones on all the creatures that he thinks he's just imagining, but they're actually real. And the story stone, what I've been talking about on the channel here, it projects a painted poetic symphony. And that's where the symphony book came from. So this will be part 2 of the painted poetic symphony. And then the creatures and Shigen start to access what's inside of the Storystone, which is a poetic compass. And inside there, I discovered there's a, aquatic algorithm. It's all water, and it's getting back into the flow, the natural being that every creature is in the story of Matsu, and the natural being inside Shigen, and that leads to him mysteriously leaving the hospital and basically healing himself. So Symphony 2 will go into all those stories that also introduce the Be Well Forest, which is right here where I'm broadcasting from, which was actually the original Sherwood Forest with Errol Flynn, right? Back in the days, the original Robin Hood. And so the discovery of, self-reliance on your own imagination as that being your guide and your spirit guide. So Symphony 2 is launching today, and all the information will be popping up on the screen and also down in the description of where you can go pledge. There's all different tiers of pledges. And so I thought I'd break those down real quick. And basically, come along and be a co-producer. It's getting exciting. I'm gonna get to publish a lot of these paintings and drawings, and on the YouTube channel, I'll be hosting it along the way. There'll be secret codes for higher tiers to get in and see the creation of me drawing and painting and really talking about how I developed the poetic element and the mythological element of Matsu and Shigen's journey and how it meets up with the Funky Eye puppets. I'm going to introduce all the new Funky Eye puppets, the new illustrations, all their backstories, the kind of like creature cards. You know, it's really going to tell each origin of where each creature came from and how they fit into the epic story universe. You know, so those of you that are new to the channel, if you like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or Dragon Ball Z or Pokemon or Miyazaki films, any of those, you know, this is the next epic. I've been working on it half of my life, and it's time to really start sharing it. And it's updated. You know, the creatures are very high tech. They're into self-knowledge and guidance and using their imagination. And the whole mission, because it's become a part of my life, is basically reawakening everyone's resilient imagination, creativity, and the courage to express yourself and know that just being alive, breathing, being exactly who you be, funkified and free, and getting your funk unstuck, thinking that all your past hurts and past trials and denials and rejection and separation and limitation and lack, they're not true. They're all made up, they're all illusory. Time to let go of those and get back to why we all came to the planet. And basically, through Matsu, it's an incredible journey through the imagination and storytelling and comics and cartoons and puppetry. It's a lot of fun. And music, I want to create live immersive experiences. I'm going to create live immersive experiences, music with bands and telling the story, and a lot in the line of any of you Gorillaz fans. You know, I want to bring it live with live puppetry, live animation, and live music, storytelling, poetry, spoken word, hip hop, rap, rock and roll, the whole thing. So here are the tiers real quick, right? Basically, the base level from $1 to $35, you're just a creature camp out. You're supporting, and we'll shout you out in general for thanking you for contributing whatever you can contribute. $35 is the first real tier, and that's going to get you a book. So you're basically buying a book. You're supporting me to create this whole Symphony 2, and it's going to be the blueprint for all the animation, the puppetry, the television shows, the feature films, more web animated and live content. And then $100, you receive a signed copy, a custom poem, and a special acknowledgement in the book with your name. At $250, you're gonna get original watercolor painting by me, I paint creatures, and everything else below. At $500, you're gonna receive a larger acrylic painting and a special behind the scenes insights, and then also everything below. And then at $1,000, you're gonna become a co-producer. And you're gonna get everything before, but you're also gonna get a creature created for you that could eventually become a Funky Eye puppet, will be immersed, you know, and I will work with you to create that creature, and that will be your avatar, your creature, to remind you of being more creative and awakening your imagination and trusting exactly who you be. And then at $1,500, you're gonna come in as a full-on co-producer, and your creature is going to enter the Matsu story universe and be a big part of it. So that's the announcement of Symphony 2, the site from the Storystone, and coming near you everywhere. We'll be blasting it on all the social channels, and keep reminding you after the month, we're shooting for 30 days to get $15,000, and that will fuel the whole book, a printing of another beautiful glossy book, just like I just showed you in Symphony 1. So I'd like to just end the video if you'll stick around for a few minutes. Just want to talk about what I've been up to and why I haven't really put up any YouTube videos in the past couple weeks. Got the incredible opportunity to work in the juvenile detention center in the area, and really go in there, and I haven't done poetry in a while, but I've been teaching a lot of visual art, but they wanted specifically poetry, spoken word, slam poetry, hip hop, rap. And so I got to go in there, and I've been going in there quite often lately. And it's been a real awakening, because it really pointed back to me almost being Shigin, like spending a lot of time dormant, working on Matsu, just writing, staying up through the night, writing, illustrating early in the morning, getting this just lightning inspired ideas to create the music, create the songs, create the lyrics, create more stories, create the origin stories, all the stuff that's going to go into Symphony 2. And basically when I went there, I did my normal thing. I shared my life story and some of the trials and tribulations, my life troubles and obstacles and seemingly barriers, from my father passing early on to the next year, discovering the tumor on my arm, and then trying to fit back in society. And the only thing saving me was illustrating creatures, which I thought were monsters back then, and writing little antidotes, which eventually I found out were poems. And then continued to write poems, and at the root of all my creativity was the word. First there was the word. In the beginning there was the word. And the word became my foundation of writing to myself, identifying myself, defining myself, remembering who I actually am and why I came to the planet, just like a lot of the creatures and Shigin in the story of Matsu. And basically the first day I went in, I got to work with, some of the youth who are more on higher levels of offense, and they're a little harder to crack. So I asked permission from the staff if I could read, poems, about my struggle with defiance and making trouble in the world, and being angry at the world, and, confused of who I was, and expressed it in violent ways and mischief, troublesome ways, and being a lot of defiance and disruptive in real negative ways. And they green lighted them. So I got to read these poems. And, when you go first into some of these facilities, the youth are, they're shut down. They've been told this and they've been told that. And, the outside has started to define them. And they've also had a lot of tragedies and troubles and trials and tribulations in their life. So they're kind of shut down. And so I would perform my poems like I learned from the, much gratitude to the Slam Nation out there, learned from all the most amazing performance poets. And big shout out and thanks to Mark Smith, the creator of the Poetry Slam, who became a good friend of mine from Chicago. And then all the friends. I mean, recently I can just think of, give a shout out to Omari Barksdale in Detroit, Cuban down there in LA now, Curtis Meyer out in Florida, the incredible Liz Straight out there in Florida, just the incredible poet nation. And I went into this facility and I really blew and I performed and really gave them laughter and entertained them, but also kept the thread of, how you can use the word and the imagination to heal, and it's the real medicine in the world. And the first day, a bunch of the students I thought weren't going to even respond to me or respect me, they respected me. And one student said, "That was a poem?" Because they're all into hip hop and rap. So that's where they do find solace in the word. But yeah, he said, "That was a poem?" And then the next sessions, a lot of those students would respect me. Like other students were talking, he'd be like, "Quiet, quiet, quiet, we need to hear this guy, we respect this guy." And that was great. And then the last, I think it was this week, in one of the sessions, first of all, I had some students basically who looked like they were distracted, not interested at all, raised their hand and wanted to read. And this one student read and afterwards came up to me and had this renewed sense in their being and in their face about, they heard themselves, maybe for the first time, like really heard themselves by presenting to their peers. And the poem they read was all about who they truly were, from their faults to how they think people see them. And the whole class rewarded this person and gave them, thumbs up, like, we get you now. And then they wanted to read another one, so they read another one. Then after class, they came up to me and said, look at my hands. And their hands were shaking. And they said, the first time you read poetry or spoke poetry out loud or spoke your writings or about yourself, did you feel nervous? I said, yes, I felt very nervous, but I felt really reassured that really what I feel inside and what I'm here to give to the world is authentic and real. And so I went back in the classes, and usually I give prompts to help them write. If they're stuck and they feel they don't want to write. And a lot of it, I believe, is just, the world has beat them down so much and they beat themselves down so much, they're in fear to express themselves. They don't have the courage. And I thought about giving more prompts, but I woke up early that morning and just had a vision. And so I wrote some of it down, and it was a direct piece, just telling them, hey, I don't come here for any other reason. I come here to hear you. And I come here, I didn't tell them that, but I come there to do the Matsu, to make art together supporting universal unity, to hear their stories, hear where they hurt, hear what sucks in them, hear how they can turn that around by facing themselves on the page. And it's the highest technology on the planet. All you need is the little pencils they give them and a piece of paper, and just face yourself. You don't even need to share that first, but face yourself. Write about yourself. Start with all the, negativity and the bull, then cut through the surface and find exactly who you are, funkified and free. So I just wanted to share a little bit of that, and that's directly connected to making Symphony 2. Gave me a lot of courage inside myself that I'm here to make a difference by just sharing stories. And at the root of it, the ancient art of poetry. You got to remember, poetry is not American made. Poetry is ancient. It's all in all of our blood. We all got to use words every day to get by in this world and get through this world. And so just think about that. And please come along and support Symphony 2, Sight from the Storystone. All the links are down below. Check it out. Come pledge. And hope to see a lot of you in the upper pledge groups to come along for the making of Symphony 2, Sight from the Storystone, and get to interact with you, especially those that want to come on the full level and support my mission of bringing the awakening of the imagination, awakening of the value of each person and their unique original purpose, and how they express themselves with courage, vitality, and destiny. Fueled with all that, feeling, discipline, and knowing your destiny on the planet. Thank you very much for tuning in. I will be back talking about Symphony 2 all month. So give a pledge and live your life funkified and free. I Paint Creatures, IPC, Symphony 2, Sight from the Storystone, and the funky eye puppets.